All right, today we're going to get started with our new software for CAD, which is called Onshape. It's a cloud-based software, so you can access it from any computer that you can have a browser window open. So we're going to get started simply by jumping in with some drawing. I find the best way to learn is just start actually drawing. So we have several reviews we're going to go through. So far we have 1 through 5. And to access those, there'll be links in the Google Classroom. If you need to find not only the links, but I will include these videos attached to each review assignment. So let's see. Right now I've just started with review 1. It hasn't actually been posted yet. So there'll be a link to the online instructions that I'm using, as well as this video that's recorded that you can watch back. So anytime you need to access those, they'll be in the classroom for you to access. So let's get started. First, you want to log into Onshape, which is a website, and you should have created an account already. And so to get started with drawing, we're going to be starting a new document. So we're going to title this one, I already have a review 1, but you could title it review 1. Go do visual. All right. So here we have our workspace, and we're going to be following along with some steps that I found in the course catalog, which is found in the Learning Center. So you will have access to this as well. So if you click on this, hopefully this will load. And you go to the self-paced courses. So the one that I started with was this one here, Fundamentals. And then I moved on to one that was found in the CAD Basics. This one here, Introduction to Part Design. And as I move through some of these self-paced courses, I will include the links in the Google Classroom so you can follow along and learn. So our first lesson is going to be found in, let's see if I can find it here, in the introduction. So the link is again in the Google Classroom, but we're going to be starting here with completing a sketch. All right, here we go, basic sketching. So when you get to this page, there'll be a general description and an image of the finished project when you're done. It should look exactly like this. And then they'll have little arrows that will navigate through the different steps. So we're going to go to the next page. So this actually loads another window, and you'll have to click on next slide to go through the steps. So step 1, create a new document. Be sure that the workspace length unit is set to millimeters. So let's go ahead and verify that. So if you haven't already done so, we changed our units, our default units, to millimeters. So you're going to click on your name, go to My Account, then you're going to go to Preferences and change the length to millimeters. And the other thing we changed was the mouse controls to use the same controls as we used in AutoCAD. So now that you're done making those adjustments, I think if you change your mouse settings, it'll ask you to save that. So I didn't change mine, I'm going to leave it there. Also just save changes here if you change that. Returning to the document. So this should be set to millimeters. One thing that we're going to learn is how to change that in a document. So I'm going to go ahead and verify that by going to the document menu and go to the workspace units. And we are in millimeters. So in some of these, we're going to be changing them to feet or inches. All right, so let's get started. First step, we got that started. We're going to start a new sketch on the top plane. So the first thing you want to do when you're drawing is choose the drawing surface or plane. So you have front, top, and right planes to draw on. So it says on the top plane, begin a sketch. So there's two ways to begin a sketch. You can either select the sketch button and then choose your plane by clicking on it. And it changes to the top plane. Or the other thing you can do is, if you know what you want to do or which plane you want to draw on, you can select that plane and then click on the sketch button and it'll automatically select that. So whichever way you want to use, you can select that first, the plane first, or you can click on to start the sketch first. So now we are in our sketch. We have sketch number 1 here as a new element, and we are this window here. Until we're done, this window will stay open. And then when we're done drawing and we want to get out of our sketch, we will click the green check mark. So now I want to view this straight on. There's an easy way to do that with AutoCAD. The click wheel and the shift button. So if you hold the shift button down and then the click wheel, you can orbit. This also has the navigation cube up here. So you can get there from using the navigation cube, orbiting, but there's another handy shortcut here. And if you want to view your sketch straight on, you can right click and select view normal to sketch plane. That will line that up. So what we're seeing here is actually the sketch planes. These actually extend into infinity. But in this program, instead of making those extended all the way, through your workspace, they just kind of use this as a general space. As I orbit here, you can see these are infinite workspaces you can draw outside of the boundary. But as a representation, they just made these boxes, or these little squares. So if that gets annoying to you to see that in your drawing, you can use the P key on your keyboard to toggle them off or back on. So we're just hiding the planes. So now I'm just viewing my sketch, and we're going to now go back to the drawing. So our workspace looks very similar to this workspace. Let's go to the next slide. Step number 2, draw the overall shape of the sketch using inferences to automatically apply constraints where applicable. Hint, you'll need to use the circle, line, and construction commands. So we're going to go for a general shape. And this is a big difference between Onshape and AutoCAD, where a sketch is truly a sketch. There's no real measurements. You're just kind of eyeballing these things. So we're going to just try to mimic this the best we can using this as a reference. So we got 2 circles, one inside the other. We've got this nice shape here, and then a construction line attaching the midpoint, looks like this line, to the center of the circle. So let's go ahead and get started with the 2 circles first. So I'm going to have and there's 0 measurements here. I'm just kind of making it as we go. So I got 1 circle there. I'm still in the circle tool. So I'm going to click on this center here and make a smaller circle on the inside. All right. Now I need this shape here. And you can see this was not perfectly aligned, so I'm going to go ahead and copy the way they did it. So this one looks like perfectly horizontal. Then we have some vertical lines here, and then this one is not horizontal. So I'm going to use the line tool. Click here where it intersects. Go over here. That didn't look like it was perfectly horizontal. Let's go ahead. You can go back a step if you want to by using Control Z. So as I near the perfectly horizontal, I get a little symbol that's a dash that it is horizontal, indicating that's perfectly horizontal to my drawing plane. So I'm going to use that for this first line. Then I'm going to go up perfectly vertical, and I get that screen tip there. That's a vertical line. Then we go back horizontal, then up vertical. And then these are obviously not equal. Attach it to the circle there. Okay, now I'm going to press Escape to get out of the line tool. And now I need a line from the midpoint of this line to the center of my circle. And that is made of what's called construction. It's just construction. So there's construction sketching, and there's like real sketching. So construction sketching is just guidelines that don't actually define anything. They're just guidelines. So we're going to go in and add a guideline. So you can do this two ways. You can select the line tool and then make sure that construction geometry is selected, and then draw your line. I'm going to find the midpoint. Or the other thing you can do is draw your line and convert it to construction by clicking on this tool and then selecting the line. Oh no, sorry, the reverse of that. Select the line and then click on this. It switches it from regular line drawing to construction line. And you can toggle back and forth. All right. So obviously selecting something turns it orange, and then you get an indication by your pointer how many items you have selected. So I can select multiple items here. And then to deselect, you click anywhere outside of your selection. So our drawing looks pretty similar to the other drawings. I'm going to go back to that and move on to the next step. So now we're going to talk about constraints. This is one of the key features of Onshape. So constraints are things that are link sketch material to other sketch material or to the drawing plane itself. So we've already seen that we have vertical and horizontal constraints. This would be a vertical constraint here. This is a horizontal constraint, vertical. So that's an easy one. This little symbol here is just, it's a coincident, means that it intersects. So these two lines are touching. So those are the two that we have so far, and then we have a tangent, which means that the line intersects at one point on the circle. And the best way that I have found to describe tangent is if a line is perfectly tangent, there's only one angle. So this has two angles, an inside and an outside angle. This one probably does have an outside angle, it's just very obtuse. It's not perfectly tangent yet. So let's go ahead and go through and make these contingencies. So we already made a contingency here. If let's see, oh, they're called constraints. So I'm showing all constraints here to show. If you scroll over something, you can see which lines are impacted by that constraint. So this, and you can see this is a coincident constraint. Just means they're intersecting. So this line intersects at this point, and then these two circles are connected at their centers. Then this line is connected here. Then you have, each time you have an intersecting line, you have that constraint. It's a coincident. They're attached at the same point. Then I have this midpoint constraint, and you can just see the various ones. So this one we wanted to make horizontal. So we're going to apply a horizontal constraint, and we're going to apply a tangent constraint. Those are the ones that are missing. So to apply a constraint, you can select the tool, or you can select a line, either one. I'm going to start by selecting the tool I want to use. So I want to use tangent. So I'm going to make this and this tangent to each other. And then I also want to make this line horizontal. Actually, before I do that, I still have this tool selected. So I'm going to go ahead and make these two tangent. And I made a very slight adjustment there. So now I need to make this line horizontal. So here's the horizontal constraint. I'm going to click on this line. That means this line is now perfectly horizontal. And it looks like we have all the other necessary constraints. So let's go ahead and go back to our drawing. Here's 3 lines that should be equal in length. So this line, and this line should all be equal. That is also a constraint that we can use. So this time, instead of clicking on the constraint tool first, I'm going to pre-select the lines. So I'm going to press Escape to get out of the previous constraint, which I'm still in horizontal. Press Escape. Now I have my select tool. I'm going to select these 3 lines. I'm going to make them equal in length. All right, I think I have everything here. The midpoint. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Now we're going to add our first dimension. So the dimension tool is this one here. Looks like that. So I'm going to find the dimension tool, which is right here. By the way, your screen might look different because if it's smaller, it will condense all of these constraint tools into one drop menu, and they can choose from the list there. So here's the dimension tool. And we're going to add a dimension of 200, which is from the end point of this line to the center, or the end point of this line. So we're going to, now I have this enabled. I want to measure from here to here, and then drag down to place my measurement. And this is supposed to be 200. Next slide. Now we're going to place the remainder of the measurements in. So this should be 50, then the distance between here and here should be 70. Let's go ahead and put that in. So we got here. Whoops. Go back into the tool. It's supposed to be 50. Then this line here is supposed to be 70. So same with AutoCAD, the scroll wheel, if you click on it, is a hand tool or a pan tool. You can use that to pan your workspace up and down, side to side. The next measurement that we need is the space between these two circles. So based on these measurements, so there's a total of 150. So there's 50, 50, and 50 because these are all the same length. So this measurement actually decides the dimension of the larger circle. So this is a diameter of 150 millimeters. So we still don't know the measurement of this circle here. So that's the distance here, 35. So there should be a distance of 35 millimeters from here to here. So I'm going to choose I still have the measurement tool on there. Click on the two lines, and you can place this measurement anywhere in your workspace. This is supposed to be 35. All right, so at this point, your sketch should be fully defined. All entities are black and cannot move. Now ours is not. I'm not sure why. This is something I'm still learning, so oh, I forgot to place the starting point in the point of origin. That's probably why. So yeah, let me go back. Oops. So the first step here was to start. It didn't say that. So you'll want to place that circle right in the point of origin. Let's see if we can do that. If I can just move it. So I'm going to try to use a coincident constraint to place the center of this here. If I can find that. Oh, zoom in a little bit. There we go. So now everything is locked into place. So once your drawing is completely locked into place with measurements and in a position on your sketch, it will turn to a black line. If it is blue, that means it can still be moved around in space. So that's just one tip that we'll discover along the way. So that is review number 1. Your drawing should look exactly like this when you're done. You're going to click the check mark to finish the sketch, and now you're outside of the sketch. And this automatically saves, so you don't have to worry about clicking a save button. It just automatically saves to the cloud.